NATO will defend all of its allies, its chief said, in a rebuke to Donald Trump's threats to members who do not reach the 2% of GDP threshold.
Spain and Ireland call for an urgent review of the EU's trade deal with Israel over possible breaches of international law.
Greece's same-sex marriage bill will be voted in Parliament on Thursday. The government claims it will restore an injustice that has been in place for many years. Ukraine is increasing its electronic warfare by intercepting and decoding Russian messages as it falls short on ammunition and manpower.
"18 NATO member states are set to spend 2% of their gross domestic product on defence this year. The alliance's Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg made the announcement on Wednesday. Stoltenberg explained that European NATO members will spend $380 billion on defence, hitting 2% of their combined GDP for the first time.
European allies are spending more. However, some allies still have a way to go, because we agreed at the Vilnius summit that all allies should invest 2%, and that 2% is a minimum.
The defence budget of European countries is a hot topic at the moment. Former President and potential Republican candidate Donald Trump said if elected, he would not come to the aid of NATO members missing the 2% target. But Stoltenberg said NATO must always stand behind each of its members.
Any suggestion that we are not standing up for each other, that we are not going to protect each other, that does undermine the security of all of us, increasing the risks. And therefore it is so important that we, both in actions but also in words, communicate clearly that we stand by NATO's commitment to protect and defend all allies.
Euronews spoke to Michael Baranowski, director of the Warsaw office of the German Marshall Fund. He said Trump's remarks would be dangerous if he was president of the United States. But his threat is not why European states have invested more in defence.
The spending of NATO allies has been increasing dramatically since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine 2 years ago. So there is no doubt that the main motivation is in order to respond to President Putin, not President Trump.
US legislation bars any president from leaving NATO without the backing of 2/3 of the US Congress. But Trump's possible return as US president worries some allies, given the country plays such a major role in the organization.
Spain and Ireland have called for an urgent review of the European Union's long-standing agreement with Israel over possible breaches of international law. In a joint letter to Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, Prime Ministers Pedro Sánchez and Leo Varadkar raised serious concerns about Israel's ongoing military campaign in the Gaza Strip. The war has killed more than 28,000 Palestinians, according to the Hamas-run Health Ministry. Both leaders asked the European Commission to assess whether Israel is complying with its obligations under the Association Agreement, which has a provision on human rights and democratic principles. A Commission spokesperson confirmed the reception of the letter, but said it was too soon to talk about next steps.
The EU consistently underlines the importance of ensuring the protection of all civilians at all times in line with international humanitarian law, and it deplores all loss of lives, of civilian lives, and that the EU continues to pass these messages in all its statements, but also as well bilaterally in its contacts with the Israeli authorities.
Sánchez and Varadkar are worried about a potential ground offensive in Rafah, the southern town in Gaza where more than 1 million Palestinians are sheltering. Israel is yet to present its evacuation plan. Both leaders say the offensive will cause an even greater humanitarian catastrophe.
As the second anniversary of Russia's full-scale invasion on Ukraine looms, a Kyiv that is short on ammunition and manpower is relying on age-old tactics, intercepting and decoding enemy messages.
Russia has more troops. Either way, they have more people or more meat to rush forward. We don't have that many people, and we have to understand where Russians gonna attack next, because we need our reserves just there.
Ukraine's defense ministry recently increased the budget on electronic warfare.
Інформації про прибуття нової техніки, про прибуття боєкомплекта, про прибуття паливозаправників, про доставку нових зеків в смугу. Тобто, якщо приїхали зеки, значить скоро буде штурм.
The members of this electronic warfare unit, most of them volunteers, understand the stakes are high, particularly as support from Western allies becomes less stable.
Disinformation is the only way we can win in this war. So any howitzers which United States gave us, any Storm Shadows or other rockets which France, Great Britain, German gives us will not be useful if they will not know where they should hit to buy some information.
Ukrainians, bracing themselves for the grim milestone of marking 2 years of Russian occupation, are fearful of ongoing instability regarding European and US support. While they're fighting for the fate of their country, Ukrainians worry Russian operations, including propaganda activity, could succeed in unravelling thus far relatively united Western responses. Euronews was filming in the cities of Irpin and Bucha, where initially Ukrainians were facing the most brutal attacks by the Russian army in the early days.
We didn't think that Russia can invade us, because a lot of my relatives live in Russia. My husband's aunt and her children live in Russia. And now they don't speak, they don't communicate, because they can't believe us, that we are under bomb, that we struggle for our freedom.
They don't believe you?
They don't believe us. No, my husband wrote that he sent them some photos of destroyed houses, like this is our life. And they sent only, oh, it's not so dangerous, it's okay.
Do you think Europe will come to support Ukraine for the long run?
I hope, we all hope that Europe will support our country.
And NATO?
NATO too, because we fight not only for our freedom, we fight for freedom of the whole world.
Meanwhile, some of those on the front line for Ukraine have families in Russia who are now sworn enemies. Dmitry is a combat medic whose father lives in Russia and supports Putin.
My father is thinking that Ukraine have a lot of Nazi, and the Putin is doing right to occupy Ukraine. And we don't have any conversation since 2017 with my father, and now it's impossible. My father have a letter Z on his car. That's what he's thinking about this war. He supported Russia. All our territory must turn to us. You understand? Crimea, Donbass, everything, and then we can to stop this war.
Do you think it's possible? You're from Donetsk.
Yes, I think it's possible. I think it's possible, but we need more weapons. We need more armored vehicles. Understand? And then we can take back our Crimea.
And as the people of Irpin and Bucha stop to relive the horrors of 2 years ago, they say the war has to go on because Ukraine must win. Shona Murray, Euronews, Irpin, Ukraine.
Angelos Michaelides is a gay single parent. He had 2 daughters in the United States with a surrogate mother. The 53-year-old doctor now lives in Athens. The bill allowing the marriage of same-sex couples that will be voted in Parliament on Thursday will change his family's life.
Μόλις ψηφιστεί ο νόμος, θα εγγράψω τα παιδιά μου στο ληξιαρχείο, οπότε θα είναι ορατά για την πολιτεία. Θα έχουν άμκα, η ιατροφαρμακευτική περίθαλψη, δωρεάν, όπως όλα τα παιδιά. Θα μπορώ να ησυχάσω ότι δεν χρειάζεται να δουλεύω το πρωί ως το βράδυ για να τα εγγράψω σε ένα ιδιωτικό σχολείο, αλλά μπορώ να τα εγγράψω σε ένα δημόσιο σχολείο.
Several MPs have reservations about the possibility of same-sex couples adopting children, but the government argues that the bill will restore an injustice that has been in place for many years. Professor of Constitutional Law Lina Papadopoulos has drafted the bill.
Υπάρχουν πάρα πολλά παιδιά που μεγαλώνουν με δύο μαμάδες ή με δύο μπαμπάδες. Αυτά τα παιδιά στο σπίτι τους, όταν βγαίνουν έξω βόλτα, όταν πάνε να παίξουν μπάσκετ, όταν χτύπα ξύλο πάνε στο νοσοκομείο, έχουν δίπλα τους τις δύο μαμάδες τους. Έρχεται η πολιτεία και τους παίρνει τη μία μαμά, τους τη στερεί, την αφαιρεί από τα έγγραφά τους και τους λέει δεν έχετε δεύτερη μαμά. Τα παιδιά αυτά γνωρίζουν ότι έχουν δεύτερη μαμά. Το ξέρουν, το ζουνε κάθε μέρα. Άρα λοιπόν το πρώτο και πολύ σημαντικό είναι ότι αυτά τα παιδιά πια δεν θα στερούνται εξαιτίας της πολιτείας και εξαιτίας μιας κρατικής απόφασης τον δεύτερο γονιό τους.
Far-right parties and the Orthodox Church strongly oppose the bill.
Με ομόφυλα ζευγάρια δεν καταγράφουν.
Με την υπερψήφιση του νομοσχεδίου, η Ελλάδα γίνεται η 16η χώρα μέλος της Ευρωπαϊκής Ένωσης που επιτρέπει στα ομόφυλα ζευγάρια να παντρευτούν με πολιτικό γάμο. Για τη ΛΟΑΤΚΙ πλάς κοινότητα αυτή είναι μια σημαντική νίκη και μια στιγμή που περίμενε εδώ και πολλά χρόνια. Όμως το σημαντικότερο είναι πως επιτέλους κατοχυρώνονται τα δικαιώματα των παιδιών των ομόφυλων ζευγαριών που μέχρι σήμερα για το κράτος ήταν περίπου αόρατα. Από την Αθήνα για το Euronews, Απόστολος Τάικος.